Welcome everybody to this interview as part of Dorset Carers Festival. My name's Councillor Laura Miller and I'm the Cabinet Member for Adult Social Care and Health at Dorset Council, and I am joined by Sue Waugh from Prama Life. Sue, welcome.
Hello, that's right.
Fantastic, lovely to have you here. So could you just walk us through maybe, for people that haven't heard of Prama, what do you do as an organisation?
Okay, Prama is quite a large organisation and has been along for quite a long time, but the part of the organisation that I'm actually involved in is a totally separate charity from Prama Care, and it's called Prama Life. And I will just quickly say that generally speaking, people do know of Prama because of Prama Care. So we have a domiciliary and personal care service, a foot care service, and we also support people who are living with brain injuries through Prama Care, and we've got about 250 members of staff on that side. That all started in 1982, but much more recently to that, Prama Life was born in 2016, and the reason that Prama Life came into being, and like I said, as a totally separate charity altogether, is because at the time, Age Concern Paul, who supported a number of clubs and pop-ins, were getting into some difficulties and were just about to disappear off the map. And the very forward-thinking chief exec of Prama at the time didn't want to see that happen, to leave all of those older people unsupported with any activities, because as I'm sure everyone knows, a massive issue for some people as they get older is loneliness and isolation. Yeah. And the simplest support is possibly the best support. So Prama Life took over those Age UK pop-ins across, Age Concern Pool pop-ins across the Pool area, but since then has grown to be an organisation that provides currently 56 clubs, groups and activities across mostly Poole, Bournemouth, Christchurch and East Dorset.
Okay, fantastic. Yeah, there's a lot in there that I just didn't know. So thank you for that. So how many people roughly do you support with those groups and the clubs and activities?
Well, it's it's between 800 and 1200 in total, and we support them across a number of activities, as I've said, but that includes things like memory lane groups for people who are living with dementia or memory loss, no diagnosis needed. And of course, those groups are also a really brilliant support and resource for carers, because carers of the people attending can either stay at the group, which means that they get a cup of tea, they get pleasant conversation, they get to help us, but we in return can support them. They can talk to other carers, they can get signposting and support from those groups. Then, as well as memory lane groups, we have sporting memory groups, which is the same kind of thing, but on a sports theme. So I always say that the men appear to like that one best, because they can talk about who won the World Cup in 1966, because unfortunately we haven't achieved that since then. But they can also talk about Ian Botham and John McEnroe, and it does appeal to women as well, but it feels like one of those opportunities that men would like. Then we also have something called Museum Memories, and we work with the museum in Wimborne and the museum in Poole to be able to provide that as an activity. Then beyond that, we provide in Ferndown something called Ferndown Connectors, which is a scheme to provide buddies to escort people back out from home to activities if they've lost their confidence to do that on their own for any reason. Then as well as that, we provide coffee mornings, lunch clubs, pop-ins, knit and natter groups, art and craft, exercise groups. We have a contract with Bournemouth Borough Council, Bournemouth, Christchurch and Poole Council, to support carers with something called the Focus Scheme.
Okay.
And the Focus Scheme provides mentors and befrienders to informal carers to be able to have a chat with them or be able to share their experience and advice.
That's so important, isn't it? Because that isolation thing is really, really real. You know, we see it a lot. So so you're really busy. That's an awful lot
Really
going on.
busy. Yeah.
What about the people that perhaps can't get out of the house, or they might feel like they might feel really isolated at home, but they actually, for whatever reason, it's not right for them to be going out and about?
No, absolutely. And as you can imagine, on the 23rd of March 2020, we had to shut the door at all of those activities, clubs, groups, didn't matter who they supported. If they were a face-to-face activity, we had to close the door, which meant that we had to do some very quick thinking. And the first thing that was set up was something called the Prama friendship line. And it was an 01202 number, and we said absolutely anybody who's lonely and isolated can phone into that number. And I identified 42 volunteers who each put an app on their telephone, and by the amazing powers of technology and VoIP were able to answer those calls any time of the day between 8 a.m. and 9 p.m. at night, 7 days a week. But that soon made me realise that actually for some people that wasn't the answer, because people would phone in 3 times a week and they'd get a different volunteer every time. So from that, we set up the one-to-one telephone befrienders opportunities. And we've currently got something like 32 volunteers who are in touch with 45 people on a weekly basis, and they'll phone them and have an hour-long conversation at a time that's convenient to both of them. So quick shout out for both referrals, but also more to the point, volunteers to help with that. It's not an onerous task. It's a lovely thing to speak to somebody on a regular basis.
Absolutely. So anybody chatty out there, anybody that likes a natter, get in touch with Prama.
Get in touch with Prama.
They can pair you up. Okay, that's fantastic.
And then the last thing in terms of supporting people who might be at home, we've also set up since last August something called telephone friendship groups. And telephone friendship groups does exactly what it says on the can. It can be put in place by a group or an organisation to replace a face-to-face activity. We will train a host to run those groups. They have to have access to a laptop or a PC. But everybody participating in the group conversation, the group activity, is on the end of a telephone. And the reason that we did that was because so many people, of course, when the pandemic started, anyone who was working took to Zoom or Skype or Teams. And other service providers are available, of course. There are many, many people who actually don't have access to IT, don't want it, haven't got internet, etc. But absolutely everybody has got a telephone. So anybody can be involved in this. And again, big shout out. If anybody wants to know about how they can train up as a telephone host for telephone friendship groups, please tell me. And we provide the training free of charge, and the actual group activity after that is free of charge as well. We just manage it and schedule it all from Prama.
Oh, well, that's a lovely thing to get involved with. So,
isn't it?
You know, and so rewarding, just meeting people and looking at. And you're quite right. You know, in organisations, we do bang on a lot about digital by default, and it's right that we do that. But we mustn't forget those people for whom that is just not an option. So,
Exactly.
So it's wonderful to hear about that. So this has been brilliant, because I just I love hearing about what's going on and how you know, organisations like yours are just out there in the community, just supporting people. And is there anything else you want to mention? Is there anything I haven't touched on?
There are a couple of things that I want to mention because this is the Carers Festival. The one thing that I would like to get out there, that hopefully lots and lots of partner agencies are getting out there, is that we've produced a book in partnership with the Leonardo Trust, a booklet called If Only I'd Known That. And it's a carer's story. It was written 20 years ago, 20 plus years ago, by a lady in Somerset, but is as relevant today as it was back then. This lady documented her journey through her husband's dementia and her role as a carer. And she very sensibly, of course, highlights in the booklet all of the points that she got stuck on and she didn't know the answers to. So things like incontinence, he became incontinent. Things like he didn't want to eat. Things like, what do you do when actually it's very difficult to get him to go to bed at night?
Yeah.
What do you do when he starts waking up at night? And what do you do when he starts wandering? And back all this up by where do you get benefits from to be able to support you in your caring role? Who can you ask about advice, either clinical or otherwise, to again be able to make your life easier as a carer and support the person that you love? So the foreword in the book is this lady's story. Her name is Susan Hartnell Beavis. And the rest of the book is dedicated to signposting and support, basically. So we as Prama put time and energy into updating the book, and Leonardo Trust have put money into getting the book produced in hard copies, and we've got 11,000 hard copies at the moment that is available to anybody free of charge. So what I'm asking is that GP practices, the majority of them now have copies. All of the Dorset libraries have got copies. But what I want is anybody out there, organisationally, as a business or as an individual or as a group, community group, please remember that we've got copies of these booklets available to carers free of charge. And again, all you have to do is get in touch to get a copy, and it is a brilliant read and then a superb resource because it has everybody's names and addresses in the back of it.
Fantastic.
There are a couple of other things that I want to leave you with as well.
Can I just say, can you send me a copy? Because as a counsellor, you know, all of our 82 counsellors, we're a resource for people, and we're always sort of looking at where can we signpost people. So, you know, we'll shamelessly plug that on all of our media channels.
Shall I get Donna to send 82 copies over to County Hall, and then you be responsible for distributing them to counsellors?
That would be wonderful. I don't want to take them from our carers, but
well, you won't be doing
them to make sure people are going in the right places. That would be wonderful. Sorry, there are a couple more things that you wanted to.
The couple of, and that actually in itself, Laura, is really, really helpful. And brilliant. As far as I'm concerned, if I achieved nothing else by this interview, that was enough. The couple of other things that I want to mention to you is I've spoken about Leonardo Trust. Leonardo Trust and us work in close partnership. Because, of course, we provide activities, they support carers. Many of our activities also support carers. I have a really big network of contacts and am able to be able to get the word out about what they do. Now, they provide support to any carer who is living within the Dorset area. And the kind of support that they provide is they provide counselling services for carers. They provide small grants for carers if they need to buy things like a new washing machine or get their chimney pointed in one instance, if they want to buy a computer so that they can access the internet. if their television's broken and that's the entertainment for their cared for person. Honestly, nothing is too stupid and asked of them. They also have a holiday home for carers to be able to go to, so you can book a respite break in their holiday home free of charge. They'll fund that, and all you have to do is get in touch with them. And very importantly, as I mentioned about the If Only I'd Known That, Leonardo Trust will also support people to access the benefits they're entitled to as a carer, so reduced council tax payment, for example, if there's a mental impairment with dementia, or attendance allowance, those kind of benefits, carers allowance. All you have to do is get in touch with Leonardo Trust, and if they cannot do it themselves at the time, they will spot purchase that to be done from another provider. So really important stuff. Then the other thing that Leonardo Trust have done in partnership with Asta, but not the housing part of Asta, the support side of Asta, they have also funded alarms for people, and they will pay for the installation and up to a year's worth of subscription for care alarms for people, along with a whole other package that comes as a home safety check. And there seems to be low uptake on that at the moment. But again,
do you think that's because people see the partnership with Asta, and is that just in social housing, or is that anyway? So maybe people think it's just for social housing, because it's Asta, and actually it's available to everybody.
And I think that is quite possibly why there is a low uptake, and it is literally available to anybody at all who is caring. And I would encourage everybody to take Leonardo Trust up on this offer, because they have a big resource within their gift and they want to use it.
And so, real practical stuff. Because I think sometimes people are, I'm not a carer, I'm just looking after my husband or wife or whatever, and I'm not entitled. I've never accessed benefits, and I don't, I'll pay for my own washing machine, even if it, and so really that just being able to reach out, and I suppose just to finish up, what we're really saying about the work that you do is that nobody should be alone, whether it's financial, whether it's information, whether it's companionship. It's nobody should be alone. So contact Prama, get the booklet If Only I'd Known, get in contact with the Leonardo Trust, just explore your options, because brilliant people like you are just waiting there to help.
We are, and that's what we do, and that's what we want to do. So and no question is too silly either. Everyone should remember that. You're quite right. People don't want to ask. People don't like to go to their doctors and bother them with issues, do they? They don't want to ask any other person for help, because they are generally concerned that they're causing trouble or making a fuss and not coping. And what I'd say is, please, what I enjoy most in the world is being able to help people.
That's fantastic.
And yes, in terms of, I think you're just going to ask me about who it's available to.
I was, because is it is it over a certain age? Is it, how does that work? Just to make sure that we're getting to the right people.
For everything that Prama does, we are talking about any adult carer. Okay. So any carer aged 18 or above. We generally don't work with, in fact, we don't at all work with child carers.
Okay, I mean, and I know that there are other brilliant organisations out there that do. So if you're over 18, you think you might be a carer, even if you're not sure if you actually are a carer, get in touch with Prama, get in touch with the Leonardo, and order yourself a booklet as well.
That's absolutely it. Thank you ever so much, Laura.
No, thank you so much, Sue. It's just, and thank you for the vital work you do, because it's just absolutely wonderful, and I can't wait to get hold of my copy of the book. So brilliant talking to you, and thank you very much.
Okay, take care. Thank you.
Brilliant.